It's been a while, but we are back with episode 7 of From Sparks to Skyscrapers, and this is a fun one. I am pleased to say that today's guest is Katie Morello, feature producer at NFL Films. Katie graduated from Ursinus in 2008 and earned her master's from the New School in 2010, but her journey to work on some of your favorite shows, such as Hard Knocks and NFL Top 100, has not been all sunshine and rainbows. Katie has been a living example of some of the entrepreneurial strategies we have talked about on the pod in the past, and I am beyond excited for all of you to hear about how she went from applying to any job she could find to putting together sports stories that will last for eternity. Without further ado, here's episode 7 of From Sparks to Skyscrapers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is From Sparks to Skyscrapers, episode 7, with special guest today, Katie Morello, feature producer, Emmy award-winning, multiple-time Emmy award-winning feature producer at NFL Films, Katie Morello. Katie, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's such a pleasure. It's a privilege to be back here at Ursinus.
Yeah. I want to confirm a couple things here.
Yeah.
So the top 100 all-time team, were you like the feature producer on that, or were you...
I was a segment producer. We have a lot of different titles. For 100 Greatest, which was a lot of shows.
Yeah.
So it was like 10 different shows, 10 different episodes. I was a segment producer, so I produced various segments throughout different shows.
Yeah. So I distinctly remember, I mean, I'm a huge Patriots fan.
Nice.
And so, I'm shameless. I'm real bad. Like throughout high school, like I was the worst. Like we'd win, and we won a lot when I was in high school, and, and we'd win, and I would just rip everybody in school the next day, and they all hated me.
You're a true Patriots.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. 100%. And I distinctly remember watching those shows and like being super excited for the Belichick Brady episode. I have to ask, did you get to boss Bill Belichick around at all?
No, I didn't. I did not have the pleasure.
Because like you would have had to have been like the only person on the face of the earth that gets to tell Bill Belichick what to do if that was the case. But
there was two producers that ran that series in that environment.
Yeah.
And so it was all shot in one day, all of that. Like it was pretty intense.
Yeah.
But I did not have the pleasure to do that. But
yeah, he doesn't, I'm sure like he doesn't like a shot or something. He's like, we're on to the next scene. Like
he's actually a lovely person.
Really?
Yes, he is great. He's amazing.
I could imagine. I mean, you achieved, shamelessly, I'm going to say, 6 Super Bowls. I'll remind everybody again, the greatest franchise in NFL history.
You can't knock it. You have to respect it.
Exactly. I want to start from college. How did you graduate from Ursinus and end up at NFL Films?
That's a good question. I think it's you should start by knowing that there is no A to B journey or path for anybody, and you should absolutely expect peaks and valleys. Expect that, Joe, when you graduate. Absolutely. Yeah. But it's great because peaks and valleys teach us many lessons, not only what we want and what we don't want, but it teaches us how to persevere, look, say you're going to apply to many jobs, right? You're not going to get interviews for every one of them, right? It's like, but it's just like, you
figure
just have
that
to
one
keep
out already.
going. Yeah. So I came into Ursinus knowing I wanted to make films, but I came here because my older sister went here. She was in a sorority. Played sports, and I used to come up here and visit, and I loved it, and I had such a great time. And I wanted to play sports, so that was one of the reasons why I came here. Mm-hmm. And I applied to NYU, and I applied to Syracuse. I didn't get into NYU, and I got into Syracuse, but not their filmmaking program. I didn't know at the time that apparently it's very easy to switch whatever you want when you go to that school, so I was a little deflated, and I was like, all right, look, Ursinus is a great school. I'm familiar with it. Let me go to Ursinus, and I'll figure it out when I get there, right? Which is, you're 18. That's a good plan when you're 18.
Yeah, that's about as far ahead as you can think.
Exactly. So I get here and I actually started political science, and I was like, this is definitely not for me. Yeah. So I was like, because I was almost I wrote political science / film. So right? And because you're coming to school, you're like, oh, I need something that's like substantial, right? But film and communications and media is an extremely important field to go into, and there's so many jobs now. I don't know, I saw a clip of one of the guys on Shark Tank who was like, 20 years ago I would have said this field, but now, film production, right? So, Peter Ursinus, and I major in media communication studies and psychology, thinking that if film doesn't work out, then I'll fall back on psychology. And I take classes here, and it's great. Like, I love media, I love learning about communication styles and reading different books, and it's great. So then I didn't get an internship at all while I was here. And frankly, I was so overwhelming thinking about trying to become a filmmaker that it almost stopped me in my tracks, you know, paralysis by analysis, right?
Yeah.
And it was just like this young, fearful mentality. So it's time to graduate, right? And I'm like, okay, well, I didn't do anything related to the thing that I actually want to do. Good job.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot. I had a great time. I made my friends for life, right? It's just, I mean, I loved this school and I loved being here and it was super fun. As you'll look back probably.
Yeah, I will. Seriously.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. So it's time to graduate and I'm like, look, like if I want to take this seriously, then I really need to take some leaps of faith right now. So I was like, okay, well, I like academia. I want a master's degree. Let me go get a master's degree in film. And I applied to different schools and I get into the new school. And I'm like, okay, well, here are your options, right? It's in New York. It's a great school. It's known for film, like Project Runway. We used to be filmed there. Inside the Actor Studio used to be filmed there. So it's like a big name school. Has great professors. And it's like, well, if I put myself also in massive amounts of debt, then I'll be forced to figure it out.
Yeah, it's true.
That's the 22-year-old plan, right? It's like very, very solid.
Just go into debt and see what happens.
So
yeah,
exactly.
It's a great plan.
Yeah, I'm like, well, if my back's against the wall, then it's like I'll have to figure it out. So I was like, all right, let's take this leap and just do it. Like it's now or never, right? Like I don't want to regret it the rest of my life not trying. So I go to a new school and it is different from Ursinus.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
I believe there was like 1,400 kids here when I went. Is that like?
It's still about the same. Okay. Yeah, I see the same people every day.
So 1,400 students to 40,000 students, right, in downtown Manhattan, lower Manhattan. So it's quite different, but it's great, right? Like I get to run around New York and I get to make student films and I get to explore different avenues. Like the new school is all about theory and practice. So like the theory part was very much like Ursinus, like it was very academic and it was very like, oh, I get to learn about the history of film and I get to learn about experimental films and all these things. But I didn't really know what I wanted, you know? So my program was 2 years. I get through my program. It's great. Like I think I want to be an editor, right? Like I like editing. It's fun. So I didn't do an internship again because I was like, what is wrong? Like looking back, it's like a series of poor decisions.
Yeah.
I should have. I was in New York. Like it was right there, but I was like working random jobs when I was up there. And I actually ran out of money at one point and I had to call on like an old family relative who lived in Queens. And I was like, I know this is crazy, but can I live with you? And she's like, yeah. Like, so, and I lived with her and like we exchanged chores and cooking. She was a little disabled, but her life in New York was amazing. Like she told me about all these crazy things. Like she used to own a garment business and she like was the head of the Frank Sinatra fan club. Like, and it was an amazing time just like being with her and hearing about her New York life while I was like living for free, just like working in her household essentially, like going to school, which was amazing. And she was great. So you really never know what you're going to get. Yeah. Right. But also it's just finding ways to make it work. So I get out of the new school and it's like, all right, great. Like I got my degree from new school. I got my degree from Ursinus, these two great institutions. Like I am going to get my film job. And I don't. Yeah. For a very long time.
Yeah. And so when did you get the NFL Films job? What year was that?
So I was an intern in 2012. So I graduated in 2010. Okay. I spent those years just literally after like you get over the initial deflate of like, yo, you're not getting a job and you need hands-on experience in this field regardless of your academic level. It was like, okay, I'm taking odd jobs. Like I worked in an eye doctor's office. I was doing freelance photography. Like I was taking any internships I could find. Like somebody called me like, can you hold a light at 2:00 in the morning? I'm like, yes. Sure. You know, whatever, just to like build it. And then it was kind of like just this roller coaster of like, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? So I get an internship in Kensington and this is unpaid. And I'm working with one guy. He basically, what he's doing in Kensington is he's buying up the blocks that his studio is in and he's letting the people of the community rehab them and he's filming it. Oh, and it was really, really cool and powerful to see like one man making a difference in this community. It really was. And he taught me a lot, but mostly just that like one person can impact a community, which was amazing. And I did little things for him and I was having a great time. Yeah. And then that ended. So then I got my next internship. Same thing, just like me and one filmmaker. Yeah. I mean, this guy, the previous guy had a couple of other people, but this was like my next internship at a place called Media Dog and Media was, it was me and him just making a guerrilla style documentary about the American worker, which was awesome. But he was a producer. So he taught me what a producer does. And I was like, I want to be a producer. This is great, you know? Yeah. So I applied to NFL Films and I applied to NFL Films multiple times throughout this up and down season of my life. And then because I have experience now, my resume is very built, I get an interview at NFL Films. So the interview goes well, you know, you got to prepare like crazy for stuff like that. But I was just like, I need something at this point, you know?
Back against the wall, like you said.
Exactly. Yeah. So the interview goes great and I get the internship and it's 7 months, right, during the season. It pretty much starts during Hard Knocks and it ends after the Super Bowl. So once I get in that building and realize the quality that's coming out of there and realize how special that place is, it was like, well, I need to find a way to stay here.
Yeah.
And it's a cliche, but it's like I was in early, I was out late, I made sure the right people saw me. Like I was having meetings, like, how do I get here? Just asking producers, like, how do you do this job?
Yeah.
Making their lives easier, just like anything to sort of just stand out. It's a highly competitive environment, so it's stressful, right?
Yeah.
It's not fun, but it's just like every day you're just like, okay, let me just try a little bit more, a little bit more.
It's fascinating because I mean, I'm really very much in the same boat with like, I have no idea what I want to do. It's scary. Like,
Absolutely.
kind of refreshing to hear this side of it because it's like, okay, maybe it'll be fine. Like, I don't know, but maybe it'll work out okay. How did you work your way up the ladder from that point to becoming a feature producer like you are now?
Another journey.
Yeah.
Yes, a similar process. But this time it's like, okay, now I'm in this environment, and I'm with great filmmakers, like people who I completely admire and respect. And it's like, it's great because I can go knock on their door and be like, and talk to them about like, what's your interviewing style like? Like if you're interviewing Bill Belichick, what's your style? And they would tell me these amazing answers, you know. We can talk later about it if you like to know details like that. So now I'm a seasonal employee. I do a seasonal rotation for 3 months. So basically 7 months on, 5 months off.
Okay.
And in the off time, I mean, again, you're a contract employee. So in my off time, I'm a freelance production assistant on local commercials around the Philly area.
Okay.
Like I was trying to stay in this area. So there's a lot of pharmaceutical stuff, just like being on pharmaceutical sets, being a PA, like getting coffee and ironing wardrobes and just things like that. But also applying to jobs, a ton of jobs. Like I applied to so many jobs, it was just like, it would wake me up at night just being like, how do I finally make this work, you know, after so many years? But I was getting really big. I was getting really big interviews like HBO and NBC, like big name places because I was working for the NFL, but still nothing. So my third seasonal comes around and it's like, all right, well, I have to figure this out again. Like, am I either just going to be a seasonal employee for forever or am I going to do the same thing? So I was like, all right, I'm done after this. I'm going to move back to New York and I'm going to see if I can figure it out there.
Okay.
So literally a month from when I'm about to be finished my last seasonal rotation, a female producer leaves.
Oh, wow.
And I get hired full time.
So it's just an opportunity that popped up and...
yeah, it is. And it's crazy and life's like that sometimes. But I like to think that I position myself correctly, you know. But look, the luck's always going to be involved a little bit and a lot of praying. And I'm sure that helped somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
And I can tell you a little bit more if you want me to try. I'll try to get through it quicker if you want.
It's all good. The answers are great so far. So...
I don't like them.
What?
Only because...
They're too long?
No. Because whenever I hear stuff like this, it, like, gives me the kick behind my step to, like, go into production world, and I hate it, because that's not what I want to do. But it just gives me that.
It is what you want. He was MCS, and he switched. And now he's
okay.
math.
Yeah. I'm math and computer science, and I love data, and I love doing that stuff. But I also love this stuff, and so, like, a lot of times, like, I'll see like a video on YouTube of like of a producer that I follow and stuff, and he like gives me the encouragement, and then I'm like, yeah, all right.
No, I mean, look, if
I got some ice.
it's something you're passionate about, like there's no reason you can't find something that merges. Like people are like, oh, people dumb down filmmaking, but that's not it at all. It's a highly skilled profession that you need intelligent people to do. So I would encourage you, if you really feel something for it, then, I mean, look. You're young, right? Like you could explore your entire 20s. Like do it. Just do different things. Don't just settle into like one thing.
Yep.
Yeah. There you go. You. I want to ask about some of the stuff that you've worked on. I know Hard Knocks is in that category. We talked about top 100 all-time team. Mm-hmm. What's the content that you're most proud of?
For Hard Knocks.
Really?
For Hard Knocks, or just for like my whole career?
Whole career. Let's go whole career. What are you most proud of?
Most proud of? That's there's a few things.
Okay.
I am very proud that I got to pitch one of my first pitches. I pitched an NFL film successfully, and that's kind of part of the growing process there. You have to learn pitch, you have to get it greenlit, you have to successfully do your own short pieces. That's kind of how they groom you make bigger things. That's
entrepreneur. That's right up our alley. I mean, the Bear Innovation Competition is coming up. That's all pitches and developing pitches. So, and you were coming. We were like, oh, maybe she's not super entrepreneurship focused. Well, look at that. There you go. You are exactly.
And if entrepreneurship is having a vision for something and wanting it to come to fruition, then I do that all day long.
Yeah.
Like I think about ideas, I think about stories, and it's like, how can you tell them in the most beautiful way, but a way that the content's going to connect with the audience?
Yeah.
You know? So my first pitch I pieced was about the NFL's first female scout. Her name's Connie Carberg. She was a scout for the Jets in the 1970s. And she helped, if you're familiar with the Jets, she helped draft Mark Gastineau, who became one of their greatest players.
I'm familiar with the Jets. Trust me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very familiar. Butt fumble, all of it. Yeah.
Poor Jets.
Yeah, I know. Poor Mark Sanchez.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Mark's awesome.
Yeah. Oh no. He's on TV now, right?
Yep.
Yeah. He's
the
cool.
tallest. He's like surprisingly super tall.
Yeah. Well, I saw there was something with Brady standing next to Ronaldo like a few days back, and everyone's like, "How is Brady taller than Ronaldo?" I'm like, "Brady's 6'4". Ronaldo's a soccer player." Like,
they look normal on television, but they're not. They're like they're
giants. Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Sorry. Go ahead.
It's all good. I know, it was fun. Football's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to talk about. So that piece just being my first one and getting to tell her story, a story that might not have been told, was really special. And we're friends to this day. Like, we talk all the time. Like, and she loves football more than any person I've ever met. And it's really exciting to talk to her. So I was glad to make that and successfully do it, but also give her the credit and recognition she deserves, and she gets to use it and she's so thankful about it. And people like that deserve pieces made by the NFL. I also did another piece. So I kind of have been finding a little bit of a niche with making stories about female pioneers.
Okay.
So this season I did one about a female writer named Eleanor Kane, who was a pioneering sports writer in the 60s when it was unheard of for women to be sports writers. And she sort of carved her own path and she fought for women to get in the press box. Like, she didn't want to do any of that stuff. She just loved football, wanted to be a writer, but like that's kind of what she had to do. And she's 85 now, and she's like a crazy Twitter person, and it's great. She loves commenting about football. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
She's an
like live
woman.
tweeting the games and stuff like that.
Oh, she does, and it's just but it's so witty. Like, she has like this wit to her, and her humor. Like, even back when she was first writing, like, she would write stuff like Don Shula would rather eat worms than go for it on fourth down. Like then run the ball on fourth down, something like that. Like,
that's how I felt with Josh McDaniels last season. Sorry, Josh. I might have to cut that. I can't have that.
It's all right. Josh will get a shot this year. We'll see. We'll see how he does.
Yeah.
And those pieces I'm really proud of, just because, again, it's like pieces that these women deserve recognition. They might not get it. And it's great to feel like you're doing something for somebody else, but also making things that other people get to see and like connect to these women. And they're both amazing and deserve the recognition. So I'm proud of them. But I'm also proud of, I got to edit the Eagles Super Bowl film when they won the championship.
Yeah.
We haven't won a championship in forever.
I know. Once again, everything comes back to the Patriots, because when you win so much, you just sometimes lose to these teams in the playoffs. Man, I'm making Manning laugh.
Not these teams, the best teams.
Yeah, exactly.
So I get to make this film, and I'm still kind of younger in my career, so I'm still like developing my skill set, but I get to be put on this, and it's super. So how this show works, right? It's called the Instant Highlight. So it's like the DVD that, after Super Bowl, it's like, get the hat, get the shirt, get the DVD. It's that DVD, right? So it's like the one that's always going to be that film. And how you do that show is you actually have to create both teams' films. Yeah. And then once the Super Bowl happens, you just cut the ending.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad I got put on the Eagles and they won that, because I cut the intro about like 1960, like the last time they won, and like this series of bad luck.
That's incredible.
And it was fun because and it made my dad so proud. Like, it was the proudest moment. He was just like, oh my, you know what I mean? Like, giving him the DVD. It was great.
I've seen the DVD. I've seen that. I've seen what you did with Brady dropping that ball.
Oh yeah. How many more times can we replay?
Yeah, exactly. So unfortunate. Well, I was at the game in 2014 when the Patriots ran the same play and it went for like 40. I don't know if you remember what I'm talking about, but I'm at Gillette. And they're playing the Eagles. The Eagles stink that year. And I'm like, all right, we're going to see a win. They end up scoring 3 touchdowns on special teams, and Brady goes for 40 yards like as a receiver. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, lose. I was just miserable. I was like, we stink, and then we end up, I think, we won the Super Bowl that year.
Yep, it's football.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
but I'm going to redeem him because I think Brady's awesome. I actually really do. I've really learned to enjoy him over the years. Like, I'm a Brady fan. Like, I actually have like Brady gear, and everybody makes fun of me.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to talk about hardship, because that's something with entrepreneurship that everyone has to go through. And I'm sure you've had to deal with that, like, kind of on the fly as you're working on these like large scale projects. What are some of the biggest challenges you've had while working on a project, and then how did you overcome them? So start with like the situation that you went through, and then like that process.
I would say that one challenge that I face often, just like we can do different things. Like I'll talk about just editing first. Like if I'm just creating something out of nothing, like you're pitching a piece, there's always, even when I'm on just new shows that I haven't been on before, or even if I'm on shows that I've been on a ton of times, there's always like that initial fear and doubt that comes up every time. Like, and I've been doing this for a long time now, but it's still there, right? And it's just like that feeling of like, is it going to be good enough? Can I top myself? Is it going to be up to their standards? What are people going to think? Like all that stuff comes right away, and you're just like, okay. And how I overcome this like doubt that's always there, it's very annoying, have you ever heard of David Goggins?
I've heard the name. I'm going to be honest, I have no idea who he is. But.
So David Goggins is a Navy SEAL.
Okay.
But he is also like an ultra runner, and he has all these crazy challenges, and he's just a maniac. Great book called Can't Hurt Me. Highly recommend you read it, especially this season of your life. Okay. It's amazing. But David Goggins he talks about this cookie jar, right? So he has this mental cookie jar, and what he does is he's like, oh, I made it through Navy SEAL training 3 times. It goes in my cookie jar. I ran a 100-mile race.
I love stuff like this.
It goes in my cookie jar, right? So anytime he's facing a new challenge, he goes back into his cookie jar, and he's like, look at all the things that I did. Like, why am I assuming that I can't do this next thing?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that. It's like I just kind of think about like, look, like I'm here for a reason. Like my skills are developing. I know what I'm doing at this point. Like, absolutely, I can take on this new challenge. And it's just a matter of working your process. Like for instance, I'm editing something right now, and it's just like not turning out the way that I want. So I'm recutting. It's like, okay, this feels better. But it's time consuming. So like I might work more, but like I don't want to put out bad work. And that's not why I'm there, right? Like I'm there to do the best work that I can to entertain my audience. So it's like just retooling, reworking, and trusting your process. Trusting that the things that you have done and the time that you've invested is going to make these things good. And like you'll get to a point where you know what's good and bad. And that took me a long time. It sounds really simple, but like you know when things are good. You know how they're going to connect. You know when they're witty, and like and you're trying different graphic things, and you're just pushing, right? And it's always pushing. Like you always have to try to one-up yourself, and you're in competition with yourself essentially. Yeah. Especially at a place like that. Like the quality is great, and if you want to make it to various levels, then you have to keep rising.
Yeah. I'm curious. This is kind of off that vein, but you mentioned, I mean, you said Belichick's great to work with. Who else are some of the people that you've worked with that are like up there with your favorites?
Well, I worked with, I talked to Brandon Graham. He's great. Love Brandon Graham. His family's great. Like we shot with his wife, and we shot with his children, all awesome, accommodating to us. My first interview ever was Larry Fitzgerald, and just the sweetest person. Like I'll just tell you a quick story about that. So I interviewed Larry, and I am terrified, right? It's my first interview.
Larry Fitzgerald.
Larry Fitzgerald, right? And I walk on set, and I'm just like, okay, all right, like, I'm ready. Like I'm prepared. Like I already know my questions off the top of my head. Like they're memorized. I don't really like. I have them with me.
You're better than me,
right? But I have to do these things to keep myself calm, right? So I have to over prepare. So it's like at least it's all in there somewhere. So it's like when I'm on set, I can just like let it flow. So I get there. This is my first one. I don't really have a process yet, except like just trying to memorize everything. And I go in, and the setup's beautiful. We have all these lights, like, DPs, guys have been working at films for 20 years. I go in, and I kick a light, right? I messed up the whole thing. Like, I kick a light, and it's like, you know how lighting is. It's like you want people to be perfect, and you have people sit in, and you spend 2 hours lighting this. And it's just like, I look over at my crew, and they're like, oh, God. They're like trying to fix it, and Larry's like, oh, sorry, just fix it. This will be all right. Like, just totally reads the situation and diffuses it. Yeah. Right? And then I ask him questions, and he's so like, he's like, all right, Katie, what do you got for me? Like, just so chill and relaxed about the whole thing. He seems
so cool. I saw him on Monday Night Manning.
Yeah.
And he just seems like the coolest guy ever.
Yeah, and it was just really nice of him to do that. Like, he could tell what was happening, and like, it was amazing, and I'll always remember that. I'm thankful for Larry Fitzgerald. Yeah. But that gave me the confidence to interview bigger and bigger people. Like, you're going to sit next to Hall of Famers. Yeah. And you're going to interview GMs. You're going to interview people, and it's just like, you have to know your stuff. You have to be articulate, and you have to prove to them that you know the game, especially being a woman. You do have to do that.
For sure. I debate with the computer. I actually like having it. Not even like I actually know the questions that I'm going to ask you, but I hate jumping around, and so I'd rather just like, I don't feel like it. Maybe I'll try it next time without it, but I always prefer to like ask the questions in the order that I'm going to have them in the podcast, rather than like I'm going to go. Like I said, I'm going to go back and do the intro. but I don't know. I debate with it. I don't know.
It's not bad. It's not bad. Like I have like a clipboard. Right?
Yeah.
So they're still there in the
Yeah.
order that I would like because they all do it the flow. Like one kind of leads into another.
Right.
You're doing the right thing.
Yeah, we'll see. I see because like some of my favorite podcasts don't like the hosts definitely don't have anything, and they just kind of which I sometimes don't understand. Like this is not an hour long podcast. They sit there for an hour and a half. Like Rogan, I don't even listen to Rogan, but like he just sits there for 3 hours and talks.
It's a lot of talking.
It's a lot of talking. So at Ursinus, what was life like for you professionally and non-professionally?
I would say I didn't have a professional life to be frank, like to be honest, similar to what we were talking about earlier, the notion that like I was here and I wanted to enjoy myself and I wanted to experience this great life experience that you're going through right now. And again, it was like that fear kind of stopped me from even like taking those initial thought steps, until I absolutely had to.
Yeah.
Which is like a terrible form of
I'm doing the same thing. So.
And it's okay because here you are learning skills, you're trying things. Like you start this podcast, like that's great. Like you created something out of nothing, and that's a special thing, and you should be proud of that for sure.
Thank
you. Outside, here it was just all about like, it's academically rigorous, right? Regardless of your major. So just learning how to work and work hard. Like I'm dyslexic, right? So like I had to work extra hard. Academically, Ursinus is difficult.
Yeah.
Which is great. It's great because like when I got to grad school, I was absolutely prepared for that level. And like I was saying, I'm dyslexic, so like through high school and all those things, like I had to learn differently, but it was always more work. Like it was always more work. I was used to putting in more work, and that's never changed throughout any stage of my life. So when I got here, it was like, oh man, like I don't know how to write for this standard. So it was like, now I need to get a writing fellow. Now I need to study more. Now I need to be in the library nonstop. But it was also like, they say that GPA doesn't really matter once you get out of college, but it's also something to strive for here because it's like, how good can you get? How much can you refine your skills? Like, and those things are going to serve you later on in life. So when I got to grad school, it was the same process. Like, let me try to do the best I can. Let me just empty the tank. And at NFL Films, I do the same process. It's like, I'm not just here to just do things. Like, I just don't want to be a player. Like, you want to be the best version of yourself. Also because you're going to make great things, but you have to be an example. If especially in something like this. Like, there's only 8 female producers out of 60, like that's not a lot,
Yeah.
So it's like set a standard for yourself, set a standard for your work, and hopefully along the way you can impact some people or talk to people.
Yeah, I'm gonna do rapid fire right now, real quick.
Okay. It's like word
I know
association?
pretty much. I know the answers to some of these questions. Unfortunately, like favorite team. I'm gonna go favorite team.
Eagles.
Yeah, that stinks.
Go Birds.
Favorite player. All time. Oh, this is tough. I got her.
This is good. All time. Wow. No,
it's not offensive.
I'm just trying to
it's a
index through
compliment.
my brain right now because there's so many amazing players. Oh man. Wow. I'm gonna have to go Joe Namath.
Okay, I respect it.
I also met Joe, and Joe is, Joe's older now, but he's the coolest person you'll ever meet.
Yeah, he's the original Joe Cool, right?
He has so much swag.
Now it's Joe Shiesty. Joe Burrow. Have you met him?
No, I haven't met him, but Joe seems like an awesome guy.
He seems like he's the coolest person on the face of the earth. And everyone's in love with him. Like, like when the Super Bowl was going on here, and every single girl on campus was like, I'm not watching the Super Bowl for anything other than Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow and his awesome glasses.
Yeah.
And his swag.
Yeah.
But the Joes.
Kid Cudi, yeah. Favorite coach?
Favorite coach of all time?
Go right now.
Current. These are good ones. I know, I'm not rapid firing.
Yeah, it's fine.
Favorite coach? Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
Steelers.
Yeah. I still have to go. I have to respect Bill. I got to respect Bill.
Of course
I think,
you do.
yeah.
Bill's amazing.
Yeah.
Like what he's been able to do so much and for so many years. It's incredible. It is.
So last one, and I think I know the answer to this. Favorite game of all time?
Honestly.
Oh, okay. You're gonna throw a curveball here.
Curveball.
28-3.
Honestly,
That's mine.
The snow game in Philly, where the Eagles played the Lions,
Okay.
was so amazing, and it's everything football. It's everything that you want football to be, right? It's like fun and it's physical, and they're playing in the snow, and it's like We actually do pieces on like snow games because people are so connected to them. It's like these childhood dreams of playing football in the snow. So I'd say that was probably my favorite game of all time. And then of course the Eagles win the Super Bowl. You can't. It's almost like a blur. Like you almost black it out.
I always remind everyone we're 1-1. We're 1-1.
Yeah,
we need the trilogy.
And I was this might be off topic, but I was pledging during that Super Bowl. And one of our PMs was an Eagles fan. And so every time the Eagles would score, we'd have to get up where we were doing and go and see her and sing her the Eagles fight song. And I was so upset that I couldn't watch the game fully.
That's fantastic.
Terrible.
That's good, though. But you remember it. So
I do.
Maybe if you just watched the game, you wouldn't remember it as well.
I also did have a lot of fun in Greek life. I thought it was it's great because those people are still my friends to this day. Like I was with them last night. Like we were doing a women's networking event with like a lot of my old sorority
That's
sisters.
awesome. That's awesome.
Signu.
So your role as a producer, what does that entail? Like the specific responsibilities, whether you're physically doing the editing, whether there's people doing it and you're the one that's in charge of those people. What's your role?
So as a feature producer, there's varying levels of producer at NFL Films. So like I started as a seasonal production assistant, then went to production assistant, associate producer, now I'm a feature producer.
Okay.
But when you're a feature, it's interesting in NFL Films because like you're already doing the next job before you get that title.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily about titles. Like we're all producers there. So as a feature producer, so I pitch, I write my lines, I direct various interviews, I direct full shoots, I edit, and I cut my own music. So I literally take an idea, I pitch it, and I take it all the way through to completion, full production. The only thing I don't do is I don't do post-production. Like I don't do the sound mixing, things like that. Like we have departments that do that and they put in the graphics, like I create rough graphics and things like that. So at NFL Films, it's special because you wear many hats as a producer, but a lot of other production companies, that's not the place. That's not the case. That's not the case. Yes.
There you go. So, I got you. It's early.
Yeah. So yes, at other production companies, it's not the case. So usually you will have somebody like standing over. Like if you're a producer somewhere else, producers will usually stand over an editor and be like, "This is where I want you to make a cut," or directors will do that as well. But it is special because we get to do it all. We get to really be involved in our stories. And I love that about NFL Films. Like I love telling stories and I love to be in the creative process and doing it all. So it's great. I'll tell you about a series that I've just spent the entire season working on called Earning It. And it was a 5-part series on NBC Peacock, streaming now, about women of the NFL. So this is like the first time we've ever done a series like this. There's about 30 women in this series and it's everybody. It is scouts. It's coaches, it's owners, it's fans, it's people it's great because it normalizes women in the NFL. And I think it's a great time to be a fan because we're going to see history all the time coming up.
Like, for sure.
It's special.
The refs and coaches, even the NBA too, like, was it Becky Hammond? She just got a WNBA head coaching job, I think. So
it's exciting. Exciting time for ladies in football.
Yeah. What was the other thing?
The Emmy. Should I talk about?
Oh yeah. So yeah, that little thing, winning an Emmy. First of all, how do you find out that you just won an Emmy? Like, is it on TV? Like they're like Katie Morello. Like,
it's not on TV. So we do have the sports Emmys. Like before the pandemic, we would take a bus up to New York, and it's a whole thing. It's not televised, but like they'll stream it,
Yeah.
But it's very similar to the Emmys that you'll see on television. It's just sports films.
Okay.
So it's like sports films from everybody, like ESPN and Fox Sports 1, and like. So I also vote on the Emmys. So what'll happen is like this time of the year, right now, we'll vote. Like you have to apply to be a judge.
You vote for yourself?
You can't. They make sure you can't, as you shouldn't. You know what I mean? And you also shouldn't like tank other people's work.
Why not? You run for president, you can vote for yourself. You should be able to vote for yourself in an Emmy. It's like,
oh, it feels wrong. It feels wrong. It's fun though. So I didn't get invited to the first ceremony. So I won my first one like very early on in my career. Like I worked on Hard Knocks. I've worked on Hard Knocks for 9 seasons in various roles, and now I'm cutting bigger and bigger pieces in Hard Knocks, which is great. Like that's where I want to be. When you start, you're just logging, which is the basis of storytelling. You're just going through the footage and you're labeling them based on a specific coding system. Okay. Right? And that's how you learn to be a filmmaker. Like, is this good or is it bad? If it's good, you clip it and you send it to the producer like, oh, you might want to check this out or use it. So yeah, my first one was for Bengals Hard Knocks. I 2013, I think. Yeah. So it was like right when I was just kind of there. Maybe it might have been 14. I'll have to tell you. I'll have to give you the date. I don't remember. But I won it because the series won for best editing. So I was a part of it, like You have to be on it a specific amount of time too.
Okay.
Like, so the show runs for 6 weeks. The show runs for 5 episodes, but it's pretty much 6 or 7 weeks on our
Okay.
end. So you have to be on it longer than 3 weeks to win an Emmy. So I was on it the entire time. So I got my first Emmy that way. And I was super excited because you're just like, oh my God, I dreamed about this. Like, it's amazing. And then you get the statue and you're just like, this is insane. I can't believe this belongs to me. But as you get older, you know, I won my second one for editing on Hard Knocks as well. And at that time I was editing. So I even felt like a bigger sense of pride.
Yeah.
Hard Knocks with the Houston Texans. Then it gets more specific. So then I won for 100 Greatest.
Yeah.
100 Greatest was great. So it was
fantastic, by the way.
And I agree with you. I think it was some of the best stuff we produced in the last decade. And it was a grind for the show heads for sure. I mean, this was a huge undertaking, 10 different series. And we would turn around, like, I love countdown shows. I really do.
Yeah.
Like, I love shows that involve things like that. Like Top 100 is one of my
every
favorite
year.
shows.
Yeah.
So I love being on Top 100.
Some of the stories that come out of that are just gold. Like, these guys are just sitting there, like, talking crap about, like, the guy on the other team that they're, like, they're buddies. They're obviously all friends.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, they definitely all are.
Yeah.
It's great. We talked about Top 100 briefly, but Top 100 is my favorite show, and it's how I kind of got my start. Like,
Okay.
I was a production assistant when I was a seasonal on Top 100, and the show head there really helped me get hired, and I owe a lot to him. His name's Adam Bryan. His father's name is Bob Bryan. Bob Bryan coined the term America's team. Bob Bryan was a legend, right?
Wow.
So I give a lot of credit to Adam Bryan. I still work with him today. Like, I emailed him yesterday about wanting to use a ridiculous song for Top 100. He was like, get a price.
Get a price.
So yeah, 100 Greatest was a great show. I made a lot of segments, so a multiple number of ones. Like, I can't even remember, there were so many at this point. And then my last one, my most recent one, which was last season, I won it for editing on the Super Bowl mic'd up, called YouTube All Access. The names changed a couple of times over the years, and it was only 5 of us, so it gets more special once you're in smaller and smaller groups.
Yeah.
And I'll say one more thing about
Yeah.
the Emmy. I know I'm being long-winded,
No,
but I'll
no,
say
no.
one more thing. Like, look, Emmy Awards are great to have, right? Like, they're in my house and they look cool and people are like, oh my God, like, oh, you have Emmys. Like, it's great. Gives you credibility, right?
Yeah.
In the filmmaking world. But if you think about them, like, my job, I get to do projects and I get to submit them for golden statues. Every job you do projects, you just don't get to submit them for golden statues,
for sure.
right? So it's a weird thing.
You're gonna hate this question.
It's all good.
What's next?
What's next?
Oh, yeah. What's next? What's next, Katie?
No, all good.
Your journey's not done.
Right.
What is next?
Yeah, what's next for you?
So next is I'm on bigger shows this season. So we're in pre-production now. Like, I'm working on a show called Icons, NFL Icons, which is on Epic. So it's a longer form doc. And this is kind of the trajectory. Like, I've made smaller things. And now it's like, how can you expand on that and make 3-act stories? So I want to be on a Football Life. I want a show head. You know, and I actually was just talking to my boss yesterday. Like, we had our review. We have reviews just like any other company, and we talked about this, like, where you want to be, and eventually I do want to run some of the shows there, you know, and learning what it means to be a leader is the next step, you know, like how to do things and implement a new culture at NFL Films. So that's more positive and more inclusive, because we do have an old school vibe still. We were an old school mom and pop company, but we're evolving. So, I mean, also I am hoping I do like teach middle school girls occasionally, like filmmaking and things like that. I hope to do more of that, like even maybe possibly starting a nonprofit where I'm teaching people filmmaking, male or female. You know, I'm kind of in the works doing that as well and trying to figure out what that's going to be and what I can actually do fitting in my schedule, because I do work a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
And thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I
This is
appreciate it.
super fun. I'm really happy. No, really, thank you so much. I do appreciate it. And I just want to say, if anybody, NFL Films has internships fall, spring, and summer.
Okay.
Various departments, cinematography, producers, which is what I do, you know, talent relations. They also have an NFL junior rotational program, which is through the league, which you get to literally rotate for a year around different positions and learn different aspects.
Sounds incredible.
I highly recommend Ursinus students apply. Great academic school. We've had Ursinus kids that have interned. Like, I know there was one woman, I can't remember her name, but she played lacrosse and she was in our camera department. It's not an easy place to stick around, but it's absolutely possible.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely possible.
You're evidence of it. So.
Yeah, and look, and I'm happy if anybody wants to reach out to me on LinkedIn, just like, I'm happy to help you. If anybody's really seriously interested in production, I'm absolutely happy to do that. And we can I get you in touch with the right people to get internships at NFL Films.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so I think that's all that I have for you today. Thank you so much once again for coming out to Collegeville. I know it's not super far drive, but maybe one day Manning and I can come up to Mount Laurel and see the place. But thank you so much for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure to hit the subscribe button below. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time on From Sparks to Skyscrapers.